Hey everyone, tonight we're going to slip into the dusty, chaotic streets of ancient Macedon, where a woman named Cynane carved her name into history with a spear and a will sharper than steel. You're standing in a world of bronze blades, royal betrayals, and empires built on blood, and Cynane, a warrior princess, is fighting to survive it all. You probably won't survive this story unscathed. It's a tale of defiance, ambition, and a woman who refused to bow. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I love seeing where you're tuning in from. Now, turn down the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soft background music, and let's get started tonight. You're born into a world where the air smells of sweat, bronze, and ambition. Macedon, 337 BCE, isn't a gentle place. It's a crucible, a land where kings forge, empires and daughters are pawns. But you, Cynane, daughter of Philip II, aren't destined for silk or diplomacy. Your father is a warlord who turned a fractured kingdom into a machine of conquest, his one good eye always scanning for the next victory. Your mother, Eurydice, is no soft noblewoman. She's an Illyrian princess, raised in a tribe where women ride and fight like men. From the moment you can walk, you feel the weight of their legacies pressing down on you, not as chains but as armor. While other girls learn to weave, you're handed a spear. It's heavier than you expect, but you grip it anyway, your tiny hands trembling with purpose. The Macedonian court is a labyrinth of egos and daggers. You grow up in Agai, a palace buzzing with generals, advisors, and half-siblings who all want a piece of your father's power. Alexander, your half-brother, is the golden child, already whispering grand plans with his tutor, Aristotle. You're not jealous, but you're not invisible either. You watch, you listen, you learn. The court teaches you early. Power isn't given, it's taken. You're not just a princess. You're a blade being sharpened. Eurydice trains you herself, her Illyrian fire burning in every lesson. She shows you how to hold a shield, how to swing a sword without flinching, how to ride a horse across jagged hills until your thighs ache. You fall, you bruise, you get back up. By age 10, you're not dreaming of marriage alliances, you're dreaming of battles. It's not all glory. The palace is a snake pit. Courtiers whisper about your barbarian mother, her Illyrian ways clashing with Macedonian pomp. They smirk at your calloused hands, your sunburnt skin. You hear them, but you don't care. You're not here to charm, you're here to survive. One day, a drunken noble laughs too loudly at your unladylike stance during a feast. You toss a grape at his head and quip, "Careful, my lord. My aim's better with a spear." The room roars, but his face burns red. You've learned to wield humor as a shield, but it's a risky game. One wrong jest could land you in exile, or worse. There's an odd detail from your childhood that sticks with you. The way your mother braided your hair before training, weaving it so tight it felt like a helmet. It wasn't vanity, it was preparation, a reminder that even your appearance is a weapon. You carry that lesson forward, braiding your own hair before every sparring match, a ritual that grounds you. Historians still debate whether Eurydice's influence made you a warrior, or if Philip saw your potential and encouraged it. Either way, you're no ordinary princess. You're a storm in a girl's body, raised not to sit quietly, but to ride, fight, and carve your name into a world that doesn't expect you to. The court's laughter follows you, but so does its scrutiny. You're not Alexander, not the heir, but you're Philip's blood, and that makes you dangerous. You overhear generals plotting, see the way they glance at you like you're a wolf cub they're not sure whether to tame or kill. You don't flinch. You train harder, run faster, strike sharper. By your teens, you're not just surviving the court, you're outpacing it. You're Cynane, and you're not here to play the game. You're here to rewrite it. You wake up before dawn, the chill of the Macedonian air nipping at your skin like a playful puppy that doesn't know its own strength. The palace is still asleep, but not you, oh no. You're already lacing up your boots, the leather creaking softly under your fingers. Your mother, Audata, is waiting outside, her silhouette sharp against the fading stars, her breath forming little clouds in the cold. She's not one for soft mornings. She's Illyrian, born from mountains that chew up weaklings and spit them out. You shuffle over, rubbing sleep from your eyes, and she hands you a wooden sword, lighter than the real thing, but heavy enough to remind you this isn't playtime. Again, she says, her voice low and steady, like the hum of a distant river. You nod, gripping the hilt, feeling the rough grain against your palms. Audata circles you slowly, her feet barely making a sound on the dew-kissed grass. She's teaching you the basics today, how to parry a blow without losing your footing, how to twist your body like a willow in the wind. You swing, miss. And she taps your shoulder with her own stick gently, but it stings like a bee that's had too much mead. Faster, she whispers, her eyes gleaming with that fierce pride only a mother warrior can muster. You try again, your muscles burning, sweat trickling down your back despite the cool air. It's not just about the strike, it's about the dance, the rhythm that turns chaos into control. Audata's people, the Illyrians, have fought like this for generations, women alongside men, no quarter given or asked. She's passing that fire to you, one bruise at a time. Remember how you braided your hair tight like a helmet back in those early days? Well, Audata's the one who taught you that trick. It's an odd little detail, but she insists on it every session. Loose hair gets grabbed, pulled, used against you, she says with a smirk. You laugh now, thinking it sounds like advice for a bad blind date in modern times. Don't let them get a hold on you too soon. But back then, it's serious business. She weaves your strands with swift fingers, adding a few beads from her homeland, clinking softly like tiny bells. It's unusual, almost ceremonial, turning a simple braid into a talisman against weakness. You feel tougher with it done, like you're wearing invisible armor. And hey, if it keeps the court ladies from gossiping about your wild look, that's just a bonus, though let's be honest. They'd whisper anyway. As the sun peeks over the hills, painting the sky in soft pinks and golds, Audata pushes you harder. You practice lunges, your feet sinking into the soft earth, the scent of wild thyme crushing under your heels. She demonstrates a classic Illyrian move. A feint to the left, then a swift kick to the knee. You copy it, stumbling at first, but soon it clicks, like unlocking a door you didn't know was there. This is where the real forging happens, in these quiet hours before the palace stirs. Audata tells stories as you train, her voice a soothing murmur, perfect for that ASMR tingle down your spine. She speaks of her tribe's battles against invaders, how women led charges on horseback, their cries echoing off the cliffs. It's not just tales, it's fuel, igniting that spark in your chest. One canonical event from these sessions sticks out. The day Audata takes you to the edge of the training grounds for your first real spar. It's not against a dummy this time, it's her. You hesitate, sword raised, heart pounding like a drum in a thunderstorm. She nods, encouraging, and you charge. Clack. Wood meets wood, the impact vibrating up your arms. You dodge her counter, twist away, and land a glancing blow on her arm. She grins, rubbing the spot. Good, she says simply, but her eyes say more. You're becoming one of them, a warrior in full. Historians still debate whether Audata's training was Philip's idea or her own rebellion against Macedonian norms, but either way, it's shaping you into something unbreakable. You pause for water, the cool liquid splashing from a clay jug, quenching your thirst but not your drive. Audata sits beside you on a fallen log, her presence warm and solid. She jokes lightly, "If you fight like that, you'll scare off every suitor from here to Persia, unless they like a woman who can pin them down." You chuckle, the sound echoing softly, a light-hearted break in the intensity. It's her way of keeping things balanced, mixing steel with sarcasm. Another quip follows as you resume. "Remember, Cynane, a spear's no good if your head's not sharper. Don't be like that noble who tripped over his own ego last feast." You snort, imagining the pompous lord face-planting in his robes. Her humor's dry, like aged wine, but it eases the ache in your limbs. The training drags on, your body protesting, but your spirit soaring. Audata teaches you to read an opponent's eyes, to anticipate the flinch before the strike. You practice grapples now, her arms locking around you in a mock hold, the scent of leather and sweat filling your nostrils. You twist free, using leverage she showed you small but mighty. It's empowering, this knowledge, like holding a secret the court boys don't have. And there's that unusual detail again. During breaks, Audata rubs a salve of crushed herbs on your bruises, a Illyrian recipe that smells like pine and earth, stinging at first, but soothing deep. It's odd how something so simple feels magical, like she's weaving spells into your skin. As midday approaches, the sun warming the air to a gentle hum, you wrap up with meditation, sitting cross-legged, breathing deep, visualizing victory. Audata's voice guides you, soft and rhythmic. Inhale strength, exhale doubt. It's ASMR, heaven, her words wrapping around you like a blanket. You feel the fire she's forged, burning steady in your core. One more joke slips in as you stand. "If Alexander conquers the world, you'll be the one conquering the kitchen. Fights nobody messes with your stew." You laugh, the tension melting away. But beneath the levity, you know this is serious. Audata's not just training your body, she's arming your soul for the storms ahead. The session ends with a quiet embrace, her hand on your shoulder, firm and proud. You've absorbed more than moves today. You've inherited her fire, that unyielding Illyrian spirit. As you head back to the palace, the braid in your hair bouncing with each step, you feel ready for whatever whispers or daggers come next. You are not just Philip's daughter anymore. You're Audata's legacy, a warrior princess in a world that underestimates you at its peril. The court awaits, but so does your destiny, sharpened and gleaming. You step back into the palace corridors, the cool stone under your feet, a stark contrast to the warm grass of the training grounds. Your braid still tight and bouncing like it's got a mind of its own, whispering secrets with every sway. The air here smells of incense and intrigue, that heavy mix of lavender and scheming that clings to every tapestry. You've got Audata's fire simmering in your veins now, but as you round the corner, there he is, Alexander, your half-brother, lounging against a pillar like he owns the place, which, let's face it, he kind of does. He's a few years younger than you, but already carrying that air of destiny, his curly hair catching the torchlight like a halo made of pure ambition. You pause, heart skipping a beat, not out of fear, but out of that weird sibling mix where admiration meets the urge to one-up him. "Morning, sister," he says with a grin that's half charm, half challenge, his voice smooth as olive oil. You nod, trying to play it cool, but inside, you're already navigating the shadow he casts. Long and inescapable, growing up beside Alexander isn't like having a regular brother. It's like sharing a stage with a lion who's already practicing his roar. He's the son of Olympias, that fierce Epirote queen with eyes like storm clouds and a reputation for rituals that make the priests nervous. You share Philip's blood, sure, but his world revolves around this golden boy, the one Aristotle himself tutors in philosophy and tactics, while you're out sweating with wooden swords. You watch him from the edges during feasts, where he debates generals like it's a game, or in the stables, where he tames Bucephalus, that wild horse no one else could touch. Remember how Audata braided your hair for protection? Well, Alexander's got his own odd ritual. He sleeps with a copy of the Iliad under his pillow, treating it like a teddy bear for aspiring conquerors. It's unusual, almost quirky, this boy king to be clutching Homer's words like a security blanket, but it fuels his dreams of glory, turning bedtime stories into battle plans. You don't resent him, not really okay, maybe a little when the court fawns over his every word, calling him the future of Macedon, while you're just Philip's other daughter. But you learn from it, shuffling through the palace shadows, your footsteps soft on the marble floors that echo like distant thunder. The sensory overload hits you daily, the clang of shields in the courtyard, the sharp tang of horse sweat from the stables, the way sunlight filters through arched windows, casting patterns that look like fractured maps of empires yet to come. You sit in on those war councils sometimes, perched quietly in the corner, absorbing strategies like a sponge in a wine spill. Philip points at maps, his voice booming, outlining conquests of Greece. But your eyes flick to Alexander, who's already sketching his own additions in the margins. It's here you hone your silence as a weapon, speaking only when it cuts deepest. Unlike your brother, who talks like words, are arrows in an endless quiver. One light-hearted joke slips into your mind as you watch him spar with companions. Alexander's so destined for greatness, even his shadow practices conquering the floor mine just trips over rugs. You chuckle inwardly, the sarcasm a soft balm against the envy. But seriously, navigating his legacy means carving your own path in the cracks he leaves behind. You're not the heir, that's his burden, with all the expectations piling on like armor too heavy for one set of shoulders. Instead, you train twice as hard, riding out at dawn while he's buried in books, your horse's hooves pounding the earth in a rhythm that matches your heartbeat. Historians still debate whether Philip favored you secretly, pushing Audata's training to balance Alexander's intellectual edge with your raw Illyrian grit, or if it was all Olympias' influence, keeping you sidelined. Either way, you feel the pull his towering presence motivates you to stand taller, to prove that blood isn't just about thrones, it's about the fire you stoke yourself. The canonical event that defines this shadow? Philip's grand wedding to Cleopatra Eurydice in 337 BCE, a feast that turns the palace into a whirlwind of politics and pageantry. You're there, dressed in finery that feels like a cage compared to your training leathers, the air thick with roast meats and flowing wine. Alexander, ever the dramatic one, clashes with Attalus, the bride's uncle, who toasts to legitimate heirs, a not-so-subtle dig at your brother's barbarian mother, and by extension, yours. Chaos erupts. Alexander hurls a goblet. Philip draws his sword in rage, stumbling drunk toward his son. You stand, frozen, heart pounding, the metallic tang of spilled wine mixing with the tension. It's a pivotal moment, exposing the fractures in Philip's family, the rivalries bubbling under the surface. You see Alexander's fury, raw and unbridled, and in that instant, you realize your own strength lies in control, in not exploding but simmering, ready to boil over when it counts. But life in his shadow isn't all drama. There are quieter moments that humanize the legend. You catch him one afternoon in the gardens, practicing speeches to a flock of pigeons who coo indifferently. It's almost comical. This future world conqueror rehearsing conquests on birds that just want seeds. If only empires fell as easily as breadcrumbs. You quip under your breath, a light-hearted jab that eases the weight. Another time, during a hunt, he charges ahead on Bucephalus, leaving you to track a boar through thick underbrush, thorns scratching your arms like insistent fingers. You emerge victorious, boar tusk in hand, and he claps you on the back, genuine pride in his eyes. It's rare, that brotherly warmth, but it reminds you, his legacy might eclipse yours, but it also illuminates paths you might not see otherwise. You adapt, turning observation into strategy. While he dreams of Persia, you study the court, the whispers about Olympia's serpents, the general's shifting loyalties, the way power flows like a river, carving canyons where least expected. Your senses sharpen, the rustle of silk robes hiding daggers, the bitter aftertaste of poisoned wine dodged at banquets, the way torch smoke curls like secrets unfolding. A third joke bubbles up as you overhear courtiers praising Alexander's intellect. He's got Aristotle for a tutor. I've got Audata philosophy versus don't get stabbed. Guess which one's more practical in Macedon? The sarcasm drips softly, like honey on a blade, keeping your spirits light amid the pressure. Navigating his shadow means embracing your differences. He's the sun, blazing and bold. You're the moon, steady and subtle, reflecting light in ways that surprise. You train with renewed vigor, your muscles aching but your resolve steel hard. The braid in your hair a constant reminder of roots that run deeper than any throne. As Alexander prepares for his own journeys, you sense the empire's gears turning, opportunities lurking in the voids he leaves. You're not just surviving his legacy, you're weaving your own thread into its fabric, strong and unyielding. The palace hums with potential, and you, Cynane, are right at its heart, ready to step out from the shade when the time comes. You slip through the palace halls like a shadow on tiptoes, the cool marble floors whispering secrets under your sandals, each step a soft hush that blends with the distant murmur of courtiers plodding over goblets of wine. The air hangs heavy with the scent of olive oil lamps flickering like nervous eyes, casting long, dancing shadows that twist across the walls like vines in a forgotten garden. You've got Audata's fire burning low in your chest now, that Illyrian grit from those dawn trainings. But here in the Court of Whispers, it's not about swinging swords, it's about wielding silence like a hidden dagger, sharp and unseen. Remember how Alexander's presence looms like a sun that blots out stars? Well, in these corridors, everyone's a star trying not to get eclipsed, and you're learning to navigate the constellations of power, one quiet observation at a time. You pause at a doorway, ear pressed lightly against the wood, the faint aroma of spiced meats wafting from within. mixed with the sharper tang of ambition. The court isn't a battlefield of bronze and blood. It's a chessboard where words are pawns and glances are queens, ready to checkmate the unwary. You watch Philip hold counsel, his voice booming like thunder rolling down from Mount Olympus, mapping out alliances with Thebes and Athens, his one good eye scanning the room for loyalty or betrayal. Generals nod, their beards twitching like wary cats. But you catch the subtle shifts, the way Parmenion's hand tightens on his cup when Athens is mentioned, or how Antipater's eyes dart to the door, as if expecting ghosts. You don't speak up. Instead, you file it away, building a mental map of who owes whom, who resents whom, and who might slip a little hemlock into the wrong chalice. It's a deadly game, this Macedonian politics, where a misplaced word can turn a feast into a funeral faster than you can say baklava. You chuckle inwardly at the thought. Imagine surviving Illyrian spear drills, only to trip over a tongue twister in court. Talk about a plot twist worthy of a modern soap opera. One light-hearted joke floats through your mind as you overhear two nobles gossiping about a rival's failed marriage. In Macedon, alliances last longer than weddings, unless you're the cake. Then you're gone in a bite. The sarcasm drips softly, easing the tension coiling in your gut. But seriously, silence becomes your shield here. You learn to listen more than you reveal, letting others fill the voids with their own follies. Audata's braid in your hair feels like a talisman now, those clinking beads a quiet reminder to stay grounded amid the swirl of schemes. You practice in the quieter moments, sitting in alcoves with the scent of blooming jasmine from the gardens below, watching servants scurry like mice with messages tucked in their tunics. Each whisper you catch is a thread in the web you're weaving, strong enough to ensnare or escape as needed. The canonical event that sharpens your skills, Philip's triumphant unification of Greece at the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BCE, where he crushes the allied forces of Athens and Thebes, solidifying Macedon's dominance. You weren't on the field, women like you rarely are, but back in the palace. The aftermath is a whirlwind of politics. Celebratory feasts turn into tense negotiations, with defeated envoys bowing low while their eyes burn with resentment. You stand at the edges, silent as a statue, noting how Philip parades his victory, demanding oaths of loyalty that taste like ash to the losers. It's here you see the real game. Power isn't just won with spears. It's held with promises, threats, and the art of making enemies think they're friends. Alexander basks in the glow, hailed as a hero for his cavalry charge. But you spot the cracks, whispers of resentment from Greek states, hints of plots brewing in the shadows. Your silence lets you absorb it all, turning observations into strategies that could save your skin when the board flips. An odd or unusual detail from those post-battle days, Philip's peculiar habit of keeping a pet monkey from his campaigns, a scruffy little creature named after a defeated general, let's call it Demosthenes, for the irony that perches on his shoulder during councils, chattering away like it's offering advice. It's quirky, almost comical, this mighty king consulting a simian sidekick, but it disarms people, making them laugh and lower their guards. You watch it swing from chandeliers, its tiny paws grabbing at scrolls, and wonder if it's a deliberate distraction or just royal eccentricity. Either way, it teaches you that even the absurd can be a tool in politics. Throw in a monkey, and suddenly everyone's too amused to notice the dagger in your words. Historians still debate whether Philip's unification was a masterstroke of diplomacy or a powder keg waiting to explode, with some arguing his heavy hand sowed the seeds for future rebellions, while others credit it as the foundation for Alexander's empire. You don't debate. You observe, letting the court's whispers inform your moves. Another joke slips in as you dodge a tipsy courtier's rambling toast. Philip unites Greece like a bad family reunion. Everyone's there, but half want to leave early and take the silverware. The light sarcasm soothes your nerves, a sleepy rhythm in your thoughts as the palace quiets at night. You hone this skill daily, shuffling through dimly lit halls where torches sputter like dying breaths, the air thick with the musty scent of old tapestries depicting ancient heroes. You practice feigned indifference at banquets, where wine flows like rivers and tongues loosen like poorly tied knots. A noble brags about his estates. You smile faintly, noting his rival's clenched jaw. Silence lets you see the undercurrents, the alliances forming and fracturing like ice on a spring lake. Remember Audeda's salve on your bruises? It comes in handy after an accidental shove during a heated debate, the herbal sting. A reminder that politics bruises deeper than any training ground. The whispers grow louder as Philip's ambitions swell, talks of invading Persia floating like smoke signals. You catch snippets, generals doubting the logistics, queens maneuvering for their children's futures. Olympia's, Alexander's mother, is a force here, her presence like a storm cloud, rituals involving serpents that make even the bravest shudder. You steer clear, using silence to avoid her web. But you learn from her too. Power thrives in mystery. A third joke bubbles up during a late-night eavesdrop. In this court, silence is golden unless you're the monkey. Then it's just bananas. You stifle a laugh, the ASMR whisper of your own breath, calming as you retreat to your chambers. By now, the Court of Whispers has forged you anew, turning Audada's fire into a controlled burn, Alexander's shadow into a cloak you wear lightly. You're not just surviving the game, you're mastering it, one unspoken truth at a time. The palace sleeps, but your mind races, piecing together the puzzle of power, ready for the next move in this endless dance of daggers and diplomacy. You crest the hill at dawn, the first rays of sun glinting off your armor like a wink from the gods. The cool mountain air whipping through your braid, carrying the sharp scent of pine and damp earth that clings to your skin like an old friend's embrace. Illyria stretches out below, a rugged tapestry of valleys and crags, your mother's homeland calling you back, not with open arms, but with the promise of steel and strategy. You've left the whispers of the Macedonian court behind, trading silk shadows for the raw grind of command. Your horse snorting softly beneath you, its muscles rippling in rhythm with your steady breath. This isn't a joyride or a diplomatic stroll. It's your campaign, your chance to prove that Audeda's fire and Philip's blood make you more than a sidelined princess. You're a commander, Cynane, and today, you'll etch that into the annals with sweat and shouts. Remember how silence was your weapon in those palace halls? Out here, it's your voice that booms, rallying troops who eye you with a mix of awe and doubt, their leather straps creaking as they shift in formation. The air buzzes with anticipation, the distant rumble of Illyrian drums echoing like a heartbeat in the mist, mingling with the metallic tang of oiled weapons and the earthy musk of unwashed soldiers who've marched for days. You dismount slowly, your boots sinking into the soft soil, feeling the ground's pulse under your feet as if it's alive, whispering secrets of battles past. This campaign isn't about conquest for glory's sake. It's personal, a push into Illyrian territory to quell unrest and secure borders that have simmered since Philip's marriages stirred old rivalries. You gather your captains around a makeshift map scratched into the dirt, your finger tracing lines like a storyteller weaving a tale, the morning dew chilling your skin as you outline the plan. Flank from the east, strike swift, use the terrain's jagged teeth to your advantage. They nod, but you catch the hesitant glance as a woman leading men into battle. It's unusual, almost as quirky as that pet monkey Philip kept, chattering advice during councils back home. Out here, though, your advice comes with a spear, and you're not about to let doubts derail you. One lighthearted joke slips from your lips as you address the troops, your voice carrying that laid-back rhythm, soft and steady, like a bedtime story with a bite. Gentlemen, if we win today, I'll buy the first round of wine, but if we lose, blame the map. It's got more wrinkles than my uncle after a bad feast. They chuckle, the tension easing like a sigh, shoulders relaxing under their shields. You mount up again, the saddle leather groaning softly, the wind tousling stray hairs from your braid, that familiar clink of beads, a quiet ASMR hum, grounding you amid the chaos building. The Illyrians wait in the valley, their lines ragged but fierce, warriors from tribes like your mother's, faces painted in swirling patterns that catch the light like living tattoos. You signal the advance, your heart pounding a sleepy drumbeat in your chest, the scent of crushed herbs under hooves rising like incense to the gods. The clash comes fast, bronze on bronze, ringing out sharp and clear, the air filling with dust that stings your eyes and coats your tongue with grit. You lead from the front, not recklessly, but with that calculated fire, audata drilled into you, your spear thrusting forward, parrying blows that send vibrations up your arms like echoes of those dawn trainings. Remember the salve she rubbed on your bruises? That piney sting? It feels distant now, replaced by the hot rush of adrenaline, the salty sweat trickling down your back under your armor. You pivot, horse-rearing with a whinny that cuts through the din, directing flanks to close like jaws on prey. It's not gore. You focus on no need for that mess, but the flow, the dance of strategy unfolding, your commands slicing through the noise like a whisper in a storm. The canonical event that defines your triumph? The Battle of the Aragon Valley in 335 BCE, where you rout the Illyrian forces under their chieftain, turning a potential rebellion into a decisive Macedonian victory that solidifies borders and boosts your reputation overnight. Historians still debate whether this was Philip's final order before his assassination or your own initiative to prove worth in Alexander's shadow, but either way, it's your name on the win. You spot the chieftain's banner fluttering defiantly, then charge through the fray, your troops surging like a tide, the clash of shields a thunderous rhythm that drowns out doubts. An odd detail stands out amid the melee. One of your scouts reports Illyrian warriors wearing charms, woven from horsehair, braided tight like your own hair, a superstitious nod to spirits that makes you pause, almost like facing mirror images of Audata's kin, quirky talismans clashing with your practical beads. You press on, the sun climbing higher, warming the air to a humid haze that blurs the edges of vision, the metallic scent of blood, faint but present, mixed with the acrid smoke from scattered fires. Your spear finds its mark not in glory-seeking strikes, but in precise deflections that open paths for your men. Hold the line, you shout, voice hoarse but steady, that ASMR softness giving way to command's edge. Another joke bubbles up as you rally a faltering squad. Come on, lads, fight like you're late for dinner. Nobody wants cold stew and a chieftain's gloating. Laughter ripples, light and fleeting, boosting morale like a sip of cool water mid-battle. The Illyrians waver, their drums faltering, and you seize the moment ordering the final push that shatters their center, banners toppling like felled trees in a gust. Victory washes over you as the enemy scatters, the valley echoing with cheers that vibrate through your bones, the sun now a warm blanket on your shoulders. You dismount amid the aftermath, legs shaky but spirit soaring, the ground littered with discarded weapons that glint like forgotten stars. Your troops surround you, faces grimy but grinning, the air thick with the musky scent of exertion and relief. This isn't just a win, it's proof you've commanded, conquered, carved your worth beyond whispers and shadows. Remember Alexander's Iliad under his pillow? Your book is this battlefield, pages written in dirt and determination. A third joke slips in as you accept a water skin. Well, that was fun next time. Let's invite the court jesters. They'd trip over their own bells in this mud. The sarcasm lands softly, easing the post-battle haze. You survey the field, the mist lifting to reveal a landscape forever changed. Your braid undone slightly, beads tangled but intact. This triumph echoes back to Macedon, whispers turning to roars of respect. But you know it's just the start. The ride home looms, armor chafing, muscles aching with that familiar salve-worthy sting, but your fire burns brighter. You've proven yourself a commander, Cynane, in a world that didn't expect it, and the gods themselves seem to nod in approval as the sun dips low, painting the sky in victorious hues. You cradle the tiny bundle in your arms, the soft weight of your newborn daughter pressing against your chest like a warm ember from a dying fire, her tiny fingers curling around yours with a grip that's surprisingly fierce for something so new to the world. The room in the Macedonian palace is dimly lit by oil lamps flickering gently, casting golden hues on the walls that dance like fireflies in the night. The air thick with the sweet, milky scent of infancy, mixed with the faint herbal tang of the birthing herbs still lingering from the midwife's hands. You've just given birth to Adia, named after echoes of Illyrian strength, and as you gaze down at her scrunched-up face, those big eyes blinking up at you in sleepy wonder, you feel Odata's fire stirring anew, not for battles or whispers now, but for this little legacy you're determined to forge into something unbreakable. Remember the braid in your hair, tight like a helmet from those dawn trainings? You weave a similar one for Adia as she grows, starting with soft ribbons instead of beads, a quirky ritual that makes her giggle, turning preparation into playtime in a world that's anything but playful. Raising Adia isn't about lullabies and silk cradles. It's about inheritance, passing on the flame that Odata lit in you, sharpening it for a throne that might otherwise slip through female fingers like sand in a Macedonian storm. You start early, even as she toddles around the palace gardens, the grass tickling her bare feet with that dewy freshness that smells like new beginnings after rain. While other royal children play with wooden toys carved like horses, you hand her a miniature spear, blunt, of course, but weighted just enough to teach balance without bruising egos or elbows. "Hold it steady, little one," you murmur, your voice, a soft ASMR whisper that soothes her fussing, guiding her tiny hands with yours, the calluses on your palms, a stark contrast to her smooth skin. She's got your eyes, fierce and observant, and as she stabs at imaginary foes in the flower beds, crushing petals that release bursts of jasmine into the air, you see glimpses of the queen she could become. Not a decorative one, but a ruler with steel in her spine. The palace bustles around you, servants shuffling with trays of figs and cheese, their footsteps a quiet patter on the stone floors. but you carve out these moments like sacred spaces, away from the court's prying eyes that still whisper about your Illyrian oddities. One unusual detail that sticks with you is Adia's fascination with a small bronze amulet you give her, shaped like a coiled serpent, a nod to Olympias's rituals, perhaps. But you spin it as a symbol of cunning, not sorcery. She wears it always, fiddling with it during lessons, the metal warming against her skin, clinking softly like those beads in your braid, turning a potentially ominous trinket into a quirky good luck charm that she swears makes her stronger than Papa's soldiers. You smile at her innocence, but deep down, it's preparation teaching her that power comes wrapped in symbols, ready to strike when least expected. You teach her rhetoric first, sitting under the shade of olive trees, where the leaves rustle like pages, turning in an ancient scroll, the sun filtering through in dappled patterns that warm your back as you recite speeches from memory. Speak clear, Adea, like the river carving stone, you say, your tone laid back, but laced with that sleepy rhythm, pausing for her to echo back, her voice piping up high and earnest. Modern jokes slip in to keep it light. If you mumble, the generals will think you're ordering pizza instead of peace treaties, and trust me, nobody wants olives on their empire. She laughs, a tinkling sound that echoes off the garden walls, easing the weight of lessons that could otherwise feel like chains. But it's not all words. You move to martial training as she grows, her little legs wobbling at first on a pony. You select yourself, the animal's mane soft under her fingers, smelling of hay and adventure. You ride beside her across the fields, wind whipping your faces, teaching her to hold reins like they're reins on fate itself. The canonical event that shapes her destiny, your marriage to Amyntas in 338 BCE, a strategic union to a man with royal blood but little bite, arranged by Philip to tie loose ends before his Persian dreams. It's no fairy tale. Amyntas is soon executed on suspicions of treason, leaving you widowed with Adea as your sole focus, the palace halls echoing emptier without his presence, the air heavy with the scent of burning incense from hurried funerals. Historians still debate whether Philip ordered the execution to eliminate rivals or if it was a court intrigue gone wrong. But either way, it frees you to raise Adea unencumbered, pouring all your fire into her mold. You turn the loss into fuel, whispering to her at bedtime, "Kings fall, but queens rise. Remember that when the throne calls, your voice drops to that ASMR hush, lulling her to sleep with stories of Illyrian warriors, the fan-like hum of night insects outside, providing a soft backdrop. As Adea blossoms into a young girl, you layer on politics, walking her through the palace corridors, where torches sputter with oily smoke, pointing out alliances like stars in a night sky. See how that general smiles at Olympias? It's a mask, little one learned to see through it. She nods, clutching her serpent amulet, her steps mimicking yours with growing confidence. You practice scenarios in the quiet of your chambers, the air scented with lavender from sachets you tuck under pillows. Role-playing court debates, where she argues for mock treaties, her voice gaining strength like a river swelling after rain. Another joke lightens the mood. Politics is like herding cats, except the cats have daggers and egos bigger than Alexander's horse. She giggles, the sound a balm against the seriousness, but you see her absorbing it, turning lessons into instincts. Martial poise comes next, sparring in secluded courtyards where the stone walls muffle your grunts, the clang of wooden swords, a rhythmic beat that syncs with your breaths. You show her grapples, her small frame twisting free with surprising agility, sweat beading on her forehead like dew on morning leaves. Good now, faster. Like the wind-dodging trees, you encourage, pausing to wipe her brow with a cloth that smells faintly of that herbal salve from your own trainings. Callbacks to your battlefield, triumph filter in. Remember how I routed those Illyrians? That's the fire in you. Now let it burn steady. She beams, proud, the quirky amulet swinging as she lunges, turning, training, into a game that's anything but childish. You envision her on a throne, not as a consort but a claimant. Her marriage to Eurydice a chess move in your grand plan. Whispers of it already stirring in your mind like leaves in a breeze. Nights end with you braiding her hair, beads, clinking softly. A ritual that binds you closer, her head leaning against your shoulder in sleepy trust. A third joke whispers out as she yawns. If thrones were comfy, kings wouldn't need so many cushions. But you'll make yours feel like home, won't you? She nods drowsily, the palace settling into quiet, your heart swelling with purpose. Adia's your destiny incarnate, a flame you're fanning for a world that needs queens who fight, not fade. The stars outside wink approval, and you drift into plans, breath steady, ready for whatever shadows loom next. You pace the dimly lit chambers of your Macedonian retreat, the stone floors cool and unyielding under your bare feet, echoing each step like a hushed secret shared with the walls that have witnessed too many schemes unfold in the flickering torchlight. The air carries the faint, musty scent of aged scrolls piled on a nearby table, mixed with the subtle aroma of burning myrrh from a small brazier that casts wavering shadows across the room, turning ordinary furniture into looming figures of intrigue. You've raised Adia with fire in her veins, braiding her hair tight, like yours, from those dawn trainings, with Audata, but now, your ambition sharpens to a point finer than any Illyrian spear, marrying her to King Eurydice, Alexander's half-brother, a man whose mind wanders like a lost sheep, but whose bloodline screams legitimacy in a fracturing empire. This isn't just matchmaking, it's a power play, a calculated thrust to plant your daughter on the throne and steer Macedon from the shadows, your breath steady and slow as you plot under the cover of night. The distant hoot of an owl outside providing a sleepy ASMR backdrop that soothes your racing thoughts. The plan simmers in your mind like a stew left too long on the fire, bubbling with potential and peril. As you envision Adia, now, a young woman with your fierce eyes and that quirky serpent amulet dangling from her neck, wed to Eurydice, the intellectually impaired king, who's more puppet than ruler, in the hands of regents like Perdiccas and Antipater. You see it clearly. Her as queen, you as advisor, pulling strings in a web that could reunite the splintering realms Alexander left behind when he chased immortality to the ends of the earth. Remember how you routed those Illyrians in the Aragon Valley, turning doubt into dust? This is that triumph on a grander scale, not with bronze, but with blood ties, forging an alliance that threatens the very men who think they hold the reins. You whisper the details to Adia in hushed tones during late-night talks, the air thick with the scent of lavender from sachets under your pillows, her hand clutching yours as you map out the journey to Asia Minor, where Eurydice holds court amid the chaos of succession wars. But ambition like yours doesn't whisper. It roars in the ears of those it endangers, and the regents, those grizzled generals who followed Alexander across deserts and now claw for scraps of his empire, smell the threat like hounds on a fresh trail. Perdiccas, the ambitious regent with eyes like polished obsidian and a smile that hides daggers, sees your move as a direct challenge to his control, his letters flying like ravens between camps, the parchment crinkling under urgent seals that carry the weight of impending doom. You feel the shift in the palace atmosphere, once buzzing with neutral intrigue, now laced with tension that prickles your skin like static before a storm, servants averting their eyes as they shuffle past with trays of bread and olives, their footsteps a quiet patter that belies the storm brewing. It's a dangerous game, this matrimonial chess, where one wrong pawn could topple queens, and you're betting everything on Adea's poise and your own unyielding resolve. One light-hearted joke slips into your thoughts as you seal a message to allies. Marrying into powers like picking a horse looks good on paper, but if it bucks, you're eating dirt with a crown on your head. The sarcasm drips softly, easing the knot in your stomach like a sip of watered wine. But seriously, the regent's power feels fragile now, cracked by Alexander's death in 323 BCE, leaving no clear air and a vacuum that sucks in schemers like dust in a whirlwind. You rally quiet support among loyalists who remember your battlefield prowess, their nods in shadowed corners, carrying the scent of conspiracy, mixed with the faint sweat of nervous anticipation. Adea practices her speeches beside you, her voice gaining that rhythmic cadence you taught her, echoing off the walls like a gentle wave lapping at shores of destiny. The canonical event that ignites the threat? The Council of Babylon in 323 BCE, where Alexander's generals divide his empire like a pie at a feast, appointing Eurydice as co-king with the unborn child of Roxane, but really handing the reins to Perdiccas as regent, setting the stage for the wars of the Diadochi that tear the map apart. Historians still debate whether this division was a pragmatic necessity or a greedy land grab that doomed unity from the start, with some arguing Perdiccas aimed for sole rule all along. You weren't there. Of course, women like you rarely grace such councils, but news reaches you on swift messengers, the parchment stained with travel dust that clings to your fingers like gritty reminders of exclusion. This sparks your plan into motion, seeing Eurydice as the weak link you can strengthen with Adea's hand, turning a puppet king into a platform for real influence. An odd or unusual detail from those turbulent days? Perdiccas' peculiar habit of collecting exotic birds from conquered lands, keeping a cage of chattering parrots in his tent that mimic battle cries and insults in foreign tongues, a quirky distraction that disarms visitors, but hides his calculating mind. Imagine negotiating alliances while a feathered mimic squawks, "Traitor," in Persian. It's almost comical, this warlord with avian sidekicks, but it underscores the eccentricity of power-hungry men who fear your straightforward ambition more than any feathered farce. You press forward, gathering supplies for the journey, the clink of coins in pouches, a rhythmic jingle that syncs with your steady pulse, the air in your chambers warming as dawn creeps in, painting the sky in soft pinks through latticed windows. Adea stands ready, her serpent amulet polished to a gleam, her braid tight like yours, beads clinking softly as she adjusts her cloak. "Mother, what if they refuse?" she asks, voice a whisper that carries the weight of futures untold. You smile, hand on her shoulder, the fabric rough under your palm from travel-worn wool. "Then we make them remember who we are, like that boar hunt where Alexander charged ahead, but I brought home the tusk." She nods, the tension easing, your words a sleepy balm in the pre-dawn hush. Another joke bubbles up as you mount your horses, the leather saddles creaking under weight. Regents think they're kings of the hill until a queen rolls in and turns it into a slide. Laughter shared lightly, cutting the edge of danger like a dull knife through bread. But the threat looms, whispers from spies, painting Perdiccas as a coiled viper, his brother Alcetus, already mobilizing to intercept. You ride out under cover, the road ahead winding like a serpent's path, dust kicking up in clouds that sting your eyes and coat your tongue with grit. Sensory overload hits, the rhythmic thud of hooves on packed earth, the sharp tang of horse sweat mingling with wild thyme crushed underfoot, the wind tousling stray hairs from your braid in a gentle caress that belies the storm ahead. Your ambition burns bright, a flame that could illuminate thrones or consume you, but you push on, breath controlled like in those grapples with Adia, each inhale drawing strength from Audata's legacy. The regent's power feels like shifting sands now, eroding under your determined stride, but danger whispers in every rustle of leaves along the path. A third joke lightens the ride. If power's a game, these regents are cheating at cards, but I've got an ace up my sleeve, and it's named Adea. The sarcasm lands softly, a quiet chuckle shared with your daughter, as the horizon beckons, fraught with promise and peril. The journey unfolds, your heart a steady drum, echoing resolve, ready to claim what whispers and battles have prepared you for, even as shadows of betrayal lengthen in your wake. You urge your horse forward along the dusty road to Asia Minor, the midday sun beating down like an overzealous blacksmith, hammering away at your resolve, the air shimmering with heat that makes the horizon waver like a mirage in a fever dream. Adea's riding beside you, her posture straight despite the jolts from the uneven path, her serpent amulet catching glints of light that sparkle like mischievous fireflies, the scent of dry earth and wild herbs rising in puffs with every hoofbeat that echoes softly in your ears. You've left the whispers of Macedon far behind, your braid tight against the sweat trickling down your neck, a familiar clink from those beads reminding you of Audata's dawn trainings and the fire she wove into every strand. This journey isn't a leisurely trot. It's the culmination of your dangerous ambition, carrying Adea to wed Eurydice and claim a slice of the throne that Perdiccas and his cronies guard like jealous dragons, hoarding gold. Your breath comes steady, a sleepy rhythm syncing with the horse's gait, but tension coils in your gut. Whispers from scouts hinting at shadows on the trail ahead, the kind that don't belong to trees or clouds. The road winds through sparse olive groves, branches rustling faintly in the breeze, like pages flipping in an ancient tome. The tangy scent of ripening fruit mingling with the salty tang of your own exertion, making your mouth dry as you sip from a water skin that sloshes softly against your side. Adea chats lightly to ease the nerves, her voice a gentle murmur that carries that rhetorical poise you drilled into her under those garden olives. But you sense the shift, a distant dust cloud rising like smoke from a hidden fire, the faint jingle of harnesses, not your own pricking your ears like an unwelcome alarm. Remember how you routed the Illyrians in the Aragon Valley, turning their drums into echoes of defeat? This feels different, not open battle, but a snare tightening, Perdiccas' hand reaching out through his brother Alcetus, whose forces now materialize on the path ahead, armor glinting ominously under the sun, shields raised like barriers to your dreams. You pull up short, heart pounding a quiet drum in your chest, the air thickening with the musky scent of approaching horses and men who've ridden hard, their faces set in grim lines that speak of orders they can't ignore. Unarmed for diplomacy, not war, you stand your ground, dismounting with deliberate grace, the ground firm under your boots, like the unyielding resolve Data instilled in you. What is the meaning of this? You demand, voice cutting through the tension like a whisper slicing silk, your eyes locking on Alcides, Perdica's kin, whose expression flickers with something almost regretful amid the duty-bound steel. Adia stays close, her hand brushing yours in silent support, the serpent amulet warm from her skin as if pulsing with that quirky, protective charm you gave her years ago. The soldiers shift uneasily, murmurs rippling through their ranks like wind through leaves, some recognizing you as Philip's daughter, the warrior who led campaigns when others hid behind thrones. One light-hearted joke slips from your lips to steady the moment, your tone laid back despite the edge. Gentlemen, if you're here for a wedding invitation, you're a bit early. The cake's not baked yet, and trust me, it's got more layers than this ambush. A few chuckles break the ice, but Alcides doesn't smile, stepping forward with a nod that seals the trap, his voice low and final as he relays the regent's command, no marriage, no threat to the fragile balance he's clinging to. You rally, appealing to the troops' loyalty, reminding them of your bloodline, your victories, the fire that Alexander himself respected in his shadow. Stand with us, you urge, breath controlled, like in those grapples with Adia, the air humming with potential revolt as soldiers exchange glances, the scent of uncertainty thick as unwashed wool. It's a gamble, your words weaving that rhetorical web you taught your daughter, but the order holds firm, Alcides' men closing in like a noose drawn tight. The betrayal unfolds swift and sharp, not with clashing swords, but a single, decisive act. Alcides or one of his blades striking true, your world narrowing to a burst of pain that fades into numbness, the ground rushing up to meet you as shouts erupt from the ranks. No gore to dwell on, just the sudden hush as life slips away, your last thoughts on Adia, that flame you fanned now facing the storm alone, the sun blurring overhead like a closing eye. The air fills with chaos, the very soldiers who witnessed it rebelling in outrage, their cries echoing off the hills like thunder from a clear sky, demanding justice for Philip's daughter cut down on a dusty road. Remember the salve Odata rubbed on your bruises, that piney sting of healing? There's no salve for this, just the finality of ambition curtailed by treachery, your body left amid the scuffle as the backlash forces Perdiccas to relent, allowing Adia's marriage. After all, a bitter concession wrung from your sacrifice. The canonical event that marks this betrayal? Your assassination en route to Asia Minor in 322 BCE, orchestrated by Perdiccas through Alcides, sparking immediate mutiny among the Macedonian troops who revered your lineage and prowess, compelling the regent to backtrack and permit Adia's union with Eurydice, despite the fatal cost. Historians still debate whether Perdiccas ordered the kill out of pure political paranoia, or if Alcides acted with some autonomy, perhaps seeing a chance to curry favor in the swirling wars of the Diadochi that fractured Alexander's empire like a dropped vase. An odd or unusual detail from that fateful day, the presence of a stray dog that followed your party from the last camp, a scruffy mutt with mismatched eyes that barked warnings moments before the ambush, almost like a quirky omen from the gods or a loyal scout in fur. Its howls, mixing with the soldiers' uproar as events unfolded, a bizarre footnote in the chronicles that makes you wonder if fate sent a four-legged herald. In the aftermath, as your spirit might imagine, Adia presses on amid the grief. The road now stained with more than dust, the air heavy with the metallic tang of regret and rebellion that forces the regent's hand. Another joke echoes in your fading thoughts, sarcastic and light. Well, if betrayal's the new hello, at least they didn't bring flowers. Thorns would have been overkill. The humor lands softly, a sleepy balm against the end, but the treachery cuts deep, your ambitions snuffed like a candle in a gust, yet sparking a fire in Adia that burns brighter for the loss. The soldiers' revolt swells, their armor clanking in furious rhythm, demanding honors for you. Philip's warrior daughter felled not in glory but in shadows. Perdiccas yields from afar, his exotic birds, perhaps squawking mockeries in their cages, but your legacy endures in Adia's steps forward, the braid in her hair, a silent vow to carry on. You lie there as the world blurs, sensory echoes fading, the warmth of the sun on your skin cooling, the distant bird calls softening to whispers, the earthy scent grounding you one last time. Ambition cut short, yes, but not extinguished. It transfers like a torch passed in the dark, Adia grasping it firmly amid the uproar. A third joke whispers out in your mind, light-hearted amid the haze. Note to self, next life, skip the road trips. Palace intrigues bad enough without the potholes. The sarcasm drifts away, leaving only the quiet hum of what-ifs. Your treachery, a pivot point in history's wheel, turning toward Adia's rise, even as yours ends. The road stretches on without you, dust settling like a veil, but your fire lingers, unquenched in the daughter you shaped for thrones and tempests. You watch from whatever ethereal vantage point death grants you, the world below blurring like a half-remembered dream, as Adia, your fierce, braided-haired daughter, steps into the void your assassination left, her steps firm on the palace stones that still echo with the outrage of those mutinous soldiers who demanded justice for Philip's blood spilled on that dusty road. The air in Pella hangs heavy with the scent of incense burned in hasty memorials, mixed with the sharp tang of forged steel from armories working overtime amid the fracturing empire, torches sputtering softly in their brackets like whispers of unrest that lull the night into a sleepy haze. Adia's not crumbling under the grief. Oh no, she's rising, shedding her old name like a snake sloughs its skin, adopting Eurydice, a nod to ancient queens of the Argead line, a bold rebranding that screams legitimacy in a world where bloodlines are the only currency that doesn't depreciate. Remember that serpent amulet you gave her, quirky and coiled around her neck like a living talisman? It dangles now as she strides through the halls, a constant clink against her chest plate, turning childhood charm into a symbol of defiance that mirrors the fire you fanned in her from those garden lessons under olive trees. Eurydice moves with purpose, her braid tight like yours from those Illyrian rituals, audata passed down, beads clinking softly in rhythm with her steps that carry that martial poise you drilled into her during courtyard sparrings. The stone floors cool under her sandals, as if grounding her ambition in the earth's unyielding strength. She's married to Eurydice now, that concession wrung from Perdiccas. After your death sparked a soldier's revolt, louder than any battlefield clamor. The king, a gentle soul, with a mind that wanders like a leaf in a breeze, but his crown fits her vision perfectly, a platform to stand on, not hide behind. You can almost feel the palace air shift around her, thick with the musky scent of oiled leather from guards' straps and the faint floral notes of perfumes dabbed by courtiers who eye her with a mix of awe and apprehension. Whispers swirling like eddies in a stream about this young queen who dares to claim more than a consort's shadow. She's your legacy incarnate, Cynane. That daughter you raised not for decorative marriages, but for thrones seized with strategy and steel. Her voice echoing that rhetorical edge you honed in those lavender-scented chamber practices. She doesn't waste time mourning in seclusion. Instead, she plunges into the fray, addressing the army directly in an unprecedented move that has generals sputtering like overboiled kettles, her words cutting through the courtyard, air crisp and commanding. The sun glinting off her military attire, that's more armor than gown, a far cry from the silk other queens drape themselves in. Macedon needs strength, not squabbles, she declares, her tone steady with that sleepy ASMR rhythm you taught her for speeches, pausing just enough to let the words sink in like rain on parched soil, the soldiers' faces lighting up with nods as they remember your own battlefield triumphs in the Aragon Valley. The scent of sweat-soaked wool from the assembled troops mingles with the earthy aroma of trampled grass under their boots, creating a sensory symphony of loyalty stirring. Eurydice stands tall, her serpent amulet swaying gently, quirky as ever, but now a badge of unyielding resolve, reminding everyone she's not just Philip's granddaughter, she's your defiance reborn, claiming the throne with actions that echo your own campaigns, turning whispers of doubt into roars of support. One light-hearted joke slips from her lips during a tense council, her voice laced with sarcasm to lighten the mood. If regents ruled by wisdom alone, we'd all be philosophers, but since they're not, let's skip the lectures and get to the leading. The generals chuckle, tension easing like a sigh after a long march, her wit a soft balm that masks the steel beneath. But this ascendancy isn't all smooth. The wars of the Diadochi rage on, generals like Antipater and Polyperchon jockeying for control, their ambitions clashing like shields in a phalanx, the air in strategy rooms thick with the scent of wax from melting seals on urgent dispatches. Eurydice navigates it with your fire, issuing decrees in Eurydice's name, but with her hand guiding the quill, her chambers filled with maps that rustle like leaves in a breeze. The faint ink smells sharp in her nostrils as she plots to hold the capital against encroaching threats. The canonical event that cements her rise, the Battle of Europus in 317 BCE, where Eurydice, leading Macedonian forces loyal to her and Eurydice, confronts Olympia's invading army in a clash that defines the power struggle, her defiance shining as she rallies troops in full military dress, turning potential rout into a standoff that forces negotiations amid the chaos of civil war. Historians still debate whether this confrontation was Eurydice's bold initiative to consolidate power or a desperate defense against Olympia's vengeful return from exile, with some arguing it highlighted her unprecedented role as a female commander in a male-dominated fray. She stands on the field, wind whipping her cloak with a whoosh that carries the metallic tang of impending steel, her voice booming over the lines, like thunder rolling slow and deliberate, inspiring veterans who followed Alexander to see echoes of Philip in her poise. An odd or unusual detail from those heady days, Eurydice's habit of keeping a small pouch of Illyrian soil tucked in her belt, a quirky remnant from your teachings, sprinkling a pinch on the ground before key addresses as a ritual to root her words in ancestral strength, the earthy scent grounding her amid the swirl of politics, almost like carrying a piece of Audata's mountains in her pocket. It's peculiar, this dirt-dabbling queen, but it bolsters her confidence, turning superstition into strategy as she claims the throne with moves that would make you proud. Cynane letters flying to allies, speeches firing up the ranks, her braid bouncing with each determined step. She presses her advantage in the capital, the palace halls alive with the patter of scribes' feet on marble, the air humming with the soft scratch of quills on parchment as she counters Polyperchon's edicts, her presence a force that bends loyalties like wind shapes, flames. Another joke lightens a war council. These generals fight over scraps like dogs at a feast, but I've got the bone, and it's called bloodline. Care to fetch? Laughter ripples, sarcastic and light, cutting through the heaviness like a dull knife through warm bread, boosting morale as she weaves your defiance into every decision. Sensory details flood her days, the cool grip of a spear during drills, reminiscent of your courtyard sessions, the salty taste of olives shared with loyalists in hurried meetings, the distant drum of approaching armies that syncs with her steady pulse. Eurydice's ascendancy blurs the lines of tradition, a queen in armor addressing phalanxes where others would cower behind curtains. Her voice a rhythmic cadence that lulls doubters into allegiance, the sun setting on her campaigns, in hues of gold that paint the hills like forgotten treasures. You feel it, that pride swelling like a river after rain, her every move a callback to the fire you ignited from those miniature spear lessons to the political maneuvers you whispered at bedtime. She's claiming the throne not just for herself, but for the legacy you sacrificed on that betrayal road, turning grief into governance, with a grace that's all her own, yet undeniably yours. The empire fractures around her, but she stands firm, braid tight, amulet clinking, a defiant queen rising from your ashes, the night air cooling as stars wink approval overhead. A third joke echoes in her thoughts during a quiet moment. If thrones were easy chairs, every fool would sit, but mine's got spikes, and I'm the one sharpening them. The sarcasm whispers softly, a sleepy comfort amid the storm, as she prepares for the clashes ahead. Your defiance, her guiding star in a sky crowded with rivals. The palace settles into hush, torches dimming to embers, the scent of myrrh fading into dreams where you watch her soar. You hover in that spectral haze where the dead observe the living, the palace at Pella alive, with the clang of armored feet marching in formation, the air crisp with the scent of polished bronze and fresh leather straps that creak softly under the weight of shields hoisted high, sunlight streaming through arched windows to cast long shadows that dance like reluctant partners across the courtyard stones. Eurydice, your daughter forged in the fire of your Illyrian lessons, stands at the center of it all, clad in armor that hugs her frame like a second skin, the metal cool against her flesh, but warmed by the fire you passed on from those miniature spear drills in the gardens where jasmine bloomed, wild and free. She's not just wearing the queen's crown now, she's donning the commander's helm, defying the grizzled generals who mutter behind their beards about a woman daring to lead where men have faltered since Alexander's glory days faded into myth. Remember the braid you wove for her, tight like a helmet from Audata's rituals? It's there, tucked under her helmet, beads pressing against her scalp like quiet reminders of roots that run deeper than any regent's schemes, her breath steady and rhythmic as she steps onto the raised platform, the sleepy hum of the assembled army's murmurs lulling into silence at her approach. The troops stretch out before her like a sea of bronze waves, their faces weathered from campaigns that stretched from Greece to the edges of Persia, the earthy scent of sweat-soaked tunics mingling with the faint metallic tang of weapons oiled fresh for whatever storm brews next in this fractured empire. Eurydice raises her hand, voice cutting through the hush, with that rhetorical poise you honed in those lavender-scented chamber practices, her words flowing like a river carving stone. Soldiers of Macedon, we've bled for kings who promised worlds. Now let's build one that doesn't crumble under fools who play at power. The army stirs, nods rippling through the ranks like wind over wheat fields. Her defiance, a spark that ignites loyalties long simmering since your assassination on that betrayal road where soldiers rebelled at the sight of Philip's daughter felled by treachery. She's commanding them now, not as a consort whispering from shadows, but as a queen in armor issuing orders that send scouts galloping out with dust, kicking up in clouds, that sting the eyes and coat the tongue with grit. Her presence turning the courtyard into a forge where allegiance is hammered anew. She doesn't stop at speeches. Oh no. Eurydice strides among the phalanxes during drills, her boots thudding softly on the packed earth that smells of turned soil and exertion, correcting stances with a firm but guiding hand. The clank of spears adjusting in unison, a rhythmic beat that syncs with her steady pulse. Thrust like you mean it, not like you're poking at a bad date who won't take the hint, she quips, her tone laid back, with that light sarcasm you loved, slipping into lessons, drawing chuckles from the men who remember your own battlefield triumphs in the Aragon Valley, where you routed foes with strategy sharper than any blade. The laughter eases the tension, shoulders relaxing under heavy pauldrons, but her eyes stay sharp, scanning for weaknesses in formation, like you taught her during those courtyard grapples, where sweat beaded like dew and the air hummed with effort. Generals like Polyperchon watch from the sidelines, their brows furrowed in that mix of resentment and reluctant respect, whispering about this upstart queen who defies tradition by leading charges in mock battles, her armor chafing, but her resolve unyielding, the sun warming the metal to a gentle heat that seeps through like a reminder of the fire within. One light-hearted joke echoes as she demonstrates a shield wall. If these generals think commanding's easy, let them try it in heels. Wait, armor's basically the same. All pinch and no give. The troops snort, the sarcasm dripping softly like honey on a warm loaf, lightening the drill's intensity as shields lock with a satisfying thud that vibrates through the ground. But this isn't play. Eurydice's commanding armies is a direct slap to the old guard, her speeches rallying veterans who followed Alexander across deserts, promising a return to Argead's strength that doesn't bow to regents' whims. She rides out on inspections, horse's mane soft under her fingers, the wind whipping her cloak with a whoosh that carries the scent of wild thyme crushed under hooves. Her voice booming orders that cut through the breeze like a whisper amplified by will. The canonical event that defines her defiance, the siege of Pydna in 317 BCE, where Eurydice, commanding loyal Macedonian forces, holds the city against Olympias's advancing troops, directing defenses from the walls with unprecedented authority for a queen, turning a potential rout into a prolonged standoff that forces strategic retreats and highlights her military acumen amid the wars of the Diadochi. Historians still debate whether this siege was Eurydice's masterstroke to consolidate power in northern Greece, or a desperate bid to protect Eurydice from Olympias's encroaching influence, with some arguing it exposed the fragility of female command in a patriarchal fray. She stands atop the battlements, the salty sea breeze from nearby shores tangling her hair despite the braid, the crash of waves below a sleepy underscore to her commands, arrows whistling past, but her poise unbroken, reminiscent of your own charges in Illyria, where you turned terrain into triumph. An odd or unusual detail from those siege days? Eurydice's quirky habit of tying small bells to her horse's bridle, not for whimsy but to mimic the clink of your braid's beads, a subtle auditory ritual that she claims sharpens her focus amid the din of catapults and shouts, the tinkling, a bizarre counterpoint to the roar of battle that confuses enemies and steadies her troops. It's peculiar, this bell-ringing queen on the walls, but it works, turning sound into strategy as she defies generals who scoff from afar, her armor gleaming under torchlight that sputters with oily smoke, the air thick with the acrid scent of pitch from flaming projectiles that arc like falling stars. She presses her command daily, reviewing maps in lamplit tents where the canvas flaps gently in the night breeze, the scent of ink sharp on parchment as she traces lines with a finger calloused from reins and spears, her voice a rhythmic cadence, debating tactics with captains who once served under Philip. Flank here, like dodging a bad suitor at a feast swift and without mercy, she jokes, the light sarcasm drawing grins amid the seriousness, easing the weight of sieges that stretch nerves thin. Sensory overload defines her days, the cool grip of a hilt during inspections, the salty taste of rations shared with soldiers around campfires that crackle softly, the distant horn blasts that sync with her heartbeat like a lullaby for warriors. Eurydice's defiance burns bright, a queen in armor who commands with steel and speeches, her every order a callback to the fire you ignited in those olive-shaded rhetoric lessons, where words became weapons sharper than daggers. She stands against the tide of generals, her presence bending the empire's fractures toward unity, the night air cooling as stars oversee her vigil, whispers of support rising from the ranks like incense to the gods. Another joke slips in during a late strategy session. These generals plot like they're writing bad poetry, full of twists, but no rhyme. Lucky for us, I've got the verse. The humor lands softly, a sleepy comfort amid the maps and murmurs, as she forges ahead, braid secure, amulet clinking, your legacy armored and alive in her every defiant step. The siege drags on, walls holding firm under her watch. The sea's rhythm, a constant hum that lulls the weary, her voice rallying shifts with that gentle wave of command you taught her. Generals falter in their opposition, her steel unbent, the air humming with potential victory as dawn paints the sky in soft golds, her armor a second skin that carries the weight of queens who fight, not fade. You feel it, that pride swelling like tides, her commanding a testament to the destiny you shaped from cradle to crown in a world that underestimates at its peril. A third joke whispers during a brief respite. Commanding armies is like herding cats in plate mail clunky, but oh so satisfying when they pounce right. The sarcasm drifts lightly, easing the siege's strain as Eurydice stands vigilant. Your fire, her guiding light in the gathering storms of rivalry. You sense the storm gathering from afar, the air in Epirus thick with the scent of smoldering herbs and serpentine coils that slither through Olympias's chambers like living shadows. Her exile, a cage she's been rattling since Alexander's death, left the empire splintering like a dropped amphora. Olympia's, Alexander's mother, that fierce Epirode queen with eyes like brewing tempests and a reputation for rituals that make even hardened generals shiver, turns her gaze eastward now, her schemes unfolding like a scroll dipped in venom, aimed squarely at your daughter Eurydice, who's claimed the throne with the fire you kindled in those olive-shaded garden lessons, where words became weapons sharper than spears. The wind carries whispers from her mountain retreat, rustling through pine boughs that creak softly in the night, a sleepy ASMR hush that belies the rage simmering beneath her composed facade, her hands weaving plans with threads pulled from old alliances and fresh betrayals. The faint hiss of her pet serpents echoing like distant rain on leaves. Remember the serpent amulet you gave Adia, quirky and coiled around her neck as a symbol of cunning? Olympias takes that motif to extremes, her rituals involving actual snakes that she claims whisper secrets from the gods, turning mysticism into a tool for revenge that coils tighter with every passing moon. She doesn't strike blindly. Oh no. Olympias schemes with the patience of a spider spinning in the dark, her letters flying on swift messengers whose horses' hooves pound the earth in rhythmic beats that sync with your ethereal pulse, carrying missives scented with exotic resins that burn the nostrils like forgotten incense from Persian campaigns. You watch her pace her exile palace, floors strewn with rushes that crunch softly under her sandals, the air heavy with the musky tang of animal hides, draped over thrones she once shared with Philip, her mind plotting to reclaim what she sees as her rightful influence over the Argead line. Eurydice rise, your daughter in armor, commanding armies with speeches that rally veterans like you rallied them in the Aragon Valley stings. Olympia's like a thorn in the heel, a young queen daring to eclipse the old one's shadow, defying generals where Olympias once manipulated them from behind curtains woven with intrigue. The sensory swirl intensifies, the crackle of fires, where she burns effigies in secret rites, the bitter taste of herbs she chews for visions that guide her vendetta, the cool touch of gold rings on her fingers as she seals pacts with disgruntled Diadochi who smell opportunity in chaos. Olympias rallies her forces quietly at first, drawing on Epirot kin and Macedonian dissidents weary of Eurydice's bold commands, her voice in councils a low murmur that lulls allies into compliance, promising restoration of Alexander's true legacy while her eyes gleam with personal scores to settle. She spreads rumors like seeds in fertile soil, whispers that Eurydice is a usurper puppeted by Illyrian ambition, your ambition, Cynane, that dangerous fire you lit with Idaea's upbringing, turning a daughter into a destiny that now threatens the old queen's pride. The air between them crackles with unspoken rivalry, two women wielding power in a man's game. But Olympias plays dirtier, her schemes laced with the occult flair that made courtiers uneasy back in Philip's days, when she danced with serpents at feasts while you honed silence as a weapon in those whispering halls. You feel the pull, that maternal urge to warn Eurydice, but death's veil mutes your voice, leaving only the wind's soft sigh through Epirote passes, carrying omens that rustle leaves like pages turning in a forbidden tome. One light-hearted joke slips into the ether as you observe Olympias consulting her serpents. If snakes could talk politics, they'd probably hiss about taxes too, but Olympias' pets are more into revenge plots than revenue. Lucky for them, no paperwork. The sarcasm drips softly, easing the spectral tension, like a sip of watered wine amid the brewing storm. But seriously, her revenge builds momentum, alliances forming in shadowed tents where campfires flicker with oily smoke that stings the eyes. Generals like Polyperchon, bending to her will with promises of shared spoils, the distant drum of marching feet, a sleepy underscore to her machinations. Eurydice, unaware at first, continues her armored reign. But Olympias's web tightens, spies infiltrating Pella, with reports that slither back on parchment rolled tight as coils, the ink's sharp scent lingering on her fingers as she reads of your daughter's speeches that defy the old order. The canonical event that unleashes her revenge? Olympias's invasion of Macedon in 317 BCE, crossing from Epirus, with an army bolstered by Aeacides and Polyperchon, storming toward Pella to confront Eurydice and Aridaeus in a bid to seize control and eliminate rivals, marking the brutal climax of the dynastic feud that tore at Alexander's remnants. Historians still debate whether this invasion was driven by genuine maternal devotion to Alexander's posthumous son or pure ambition to reclaim her status as the empire's shadowy matriarch, with some arguing it was a calculated purge masked as justice. She marches with fanfare muted by strategy, her chariot wheels rumbling over rocky paths that jolt like uneven breaths, the air filled with the earthy musk of troops on the move, and the faint jingle of harnesses that echoes her serpent's scales. Eurydice rallies in response, but Olympia's schemes have sown doubt, soldiers wavering like reeds in wind, their loyalties tugged by memories of Alexander's mother, who once blessed campaigns with mystic rites. An odd or unusual detail from those invasion days? Olympia's peculiar custom of carrying a vial of sacred water from the Acheron River, believed to hold underworld powers, sprinkling it on her tent thresholds each night as a quirky ward against betrayal. The liquid's cool drip on canvas, a bizarre ritual that her aides whisper about, mixing superstition with strategy in a way that unnerves even her allies. It's eccentric, this queen dabbing holy drops like perfume against ghosts, but it steels her resolve, turning fear into fuel as she closes in on Pella, the horizon blurring with dust from her advance that coats tongues with grit and stings eyes like unshed tears. You track her progress, the sensory echoes vivid, the creak of wagon axles laden with supplies, the salty sweat of scouts reporting back with breathless urgency, the distant clash of practiced swords that hum like a lullaby for the vengeful. Olympia's schemes with relentless grace, her letters now laced with ultimatums that fly like arrows tipped in ink, demanding Eurydice's submission while plotting her downfall in rites where serpents coil around altars, flickering with candlelight that smells of beeswax and malice. Another joke bubbles up in your thoughts. Olympias plots revenge like a bad ex, at a wedding shows up uninvited, brings drama, and leaves with the silverware. At least her snakes make better +1s than most dates. The light sarcasm whispers softly, a momentary balm against the gathering darkness, as her army swells, alliances hardening like clay and sun, the air humming with the soft patter of rain on tents that masks the sharpening of blades. Eurydice feels the pressure building, her armored commands now laced with urgency, but Olympias's revenge rolls on, a tide pulled by moons of resentment, her presence invoking Alexander's ghost to sway waverers. The night air cooling as campfires die, to embers glowing like eyes in the dark. She consults oracles in hidden groves where leaves rustle with prophetic winds, her hand steady on a dagger etched with runes, the cool metal grounding her amid visions that swirl like smoke. A third joke drifts in, If revenge is a dish best served cold, Olympias's is freezer, burned chilled by exile, and spiced with serpent sass. No wonder it leaves a bite. The humor lands lightly, sarcastic and sleepy, as the schemes culminate, Olympias closing the distance to Pella, with steps that echo your own past marches, but twisted by vendetta's grip. The empire holds its breath, sensory whispers, fading into the hush before clash. Your daughter's throne teetering under the weight of this matriarchal storm, Olympia's revenge, a serpent uncoiling, slow and sure, ready to strike at the heart you shaped so carefully. You feel the ground tremble under the weight of advancing boots, the air in Pella thick with the acrid scent of torch smoke curling up from barricades hastily thrown together, the distant roar of Olympias's army echoing off the city walls like thunder rolling slow and inevitable across a darkening sky. Eurydice, your daughter armored in the steel you helped forge through those courtyard grapples where sweat dripped like morning dew, stands defiant on the battlements, her braid tucked under her helmet with beads pressing firm against her scalp, a quiet clink lost in the chaos as she shouts orders to her loyalists, her voice cutting through the din with that rhythmic poise you taught her under olive trees, where jasmine bloomed soft and sweet. The siege tightens like a noose, drawn by Olympias's vengeful hand, her schemes from Epirote exile now blooming into betrayal that seeps through the ranks like poison in a well. Soldiers who once cheered Eurydice's speeches, now wavering under promises whispered by spies, whose footsteps patter softly in the night shadows, carrying bribes that jingle like forgotten coins in a beggar's pouch. You watch helplessly from the veil, sensory whispers assaulting you, the salty tang of fear, sweat on the wind, the cool grip of spears clutched tight by trembling hands, the faint hum of arrows nocked and ready that lulls the tense hush before the storm breaks. Eurydice doesn't falter at first, pacing the walls with steps that thud steadily on stone worn smooth by generations of defenders, her serpent amulet swaying against her chest plate, that quirky charm you gave her, now warm from her skin, as if pulsing with defiance against the encroaching tide. She rallies her men with speeches that echo your own battlefield commands from the Aragon Valley, where you turn doubt into dust under charging hooves, her words flowing like a river swelling after rain. Hold fast, Macedonians. We fight not for thrones, but for the fire that Alexander kindled, and we keep burning. The troops nod, shields locking with a resonant thud that vibrates through the ground like a sleepy drumbeat, but cracks appear. Loyalties fracturing as Olympias agents sow discord with tales of her divine favor, serpents hissing prophecies in her tents that make even stout hearts quiver. The air grows heavier with the scent of burning pitch from catapults flinging fireballs that arc lazily through the twilight, bursting against walls with pops that sting the ears and coat tongues with ash. The night sky, painted in flickering oranges that blur the stars like tears in weary eyes. Betrayal creeps in subtle at dawn, when a gate creaks open under the cover of mist rolling off the nearby river, its chill dampness clinging to skin like unwanted embraces. A captain swayed by Olympias's gold or threats, swinging wide the barrier that seals Eurydice's fate. You sense the shift, the soft patter of traitorous feet on dew-slick stones, whispers exchanged in the gray light where shadows linger like reluctant ghosts, the metallic tang of drawn blades mixing with the earthy musk of men pressed close in ambush. Eurydice fights back, descending from the walls with a clash of armor that rings sharp and clear, her spear thrusting in arcs honed from your lessons. But numbers overwhelm, loyalists falling around her in a melee that's all grunts and clangs, without the glory of open fields, the ground slick, with morning moisture that turns footing treacherous like ice on a forgotten pond. Captured, she's dragged before Olympias, who enters the breached city like a storm cloud parting, her chariot wheels rumbling over cobbles with a low growl that syncs with your ethereal pulse, serpents coiled around her arms, hissing softly as if mocking the defeat. One light-hearted joke slips from Eurydice's lips even in chains, her tone laced with that sarcastic edge you loved weaving into rhetoric practices. If betrayal's the new loyalty, next time, send a note saves on the drama and the dry cleaning for all this mud. The guards chuckle uneasily, tension easing for a breath. But Olympias' eyes narrow like slits in a mask, her revenge cold and calculated, forcing Eurydice into a cell where the air hangs stale, with the scent of damp stone and despair, the drip of water from cracks in the walls, a sleepy rhythm that mocks the queen's fall. Imprisoned, Eurydice faces the end not with pleas, but with the fire you ignited, that unyielding spirit from cradle trainings, where you handed her miniature spears instead of dolls, her hand steady as she's compelled to take her own life, a dagger pressed into her palm by guards, who avert their eyes, the cool metal biting into skin like a final, bitter kiss. No gore to linger on, just the hush as she whispers a vow to the shadows, her braid loosening slightly, beads scattering with a soft clink that echoes like farewell bells in the dim light. The canonical event that seals her fall? The capture at Amphipolis in 317 BCE, where Eurydice's army, marching to confront Olympias, defects en masse upon seeing the revered Queen Mother, leading to Eurydice and Aridaeus' swift betrayal, capture, and imprisonment, culminating in their executions amid the brutal power struggles of the Diadochi Wars. Historians still debate whether this mass defection was driven by genuine awe for Olympia's Alexander-linked mystique or orchestrated through bribes and threats that exploited soldiers' exhaustion from endless civil strife, with some arguing it marked the irreversible decline of Argead female agency in Macedonian politics. Aridaeus follows soon after, murdered in the same grim purge, his gentle confusion ending in silence that blankets the palace like a shroud, the air heavy with the scent of rushed funerals, where incense burns thick to mask the rot of regret. An odd or unusual detail from that fateful capture, the presence of a flock of ravens that circled overhead during the defection, cawing incessantly as if heralding doom, a quirky omen that soldiers later whispered about as Olympias's feathered spies, sent by her serpentine gods to oversee the betrayal, their shadows flitting across the ground like ink spills on a map of fallen ambitions. It's peculiar, this avian audience to a queen's downfall, but it lingers in chronicles as a bizarre footnote, turning nature into a conspirator in the human drama unfolding below. Eurydice's final moments blur in your vision, the cells chill seeping through stone walls that weep condensation like unshed tears. Her voice, a faint echo, reciting lines from those rhetoric drills you shared, words of strength fading into the hush as the dagger does its work. Betrayed by the very men she commanded, captured in a whirlwind of shifting allegiances that whirl like leaves in autumn gusts. She's forced to end it, her spirit unbowed even as the light dims, the distant sea waves crashing a lullaby that soothes the transition. You feel the pang, that maternal ache sharpened by death's distance, as her fall echoes your own on that road of treachery. Ambition snuffed but legacy, flickering like embers in wind. Another joke whispers in the ether, sarcastic and light. Queens fall like bad investments, sudden and with everyone claiming they saw it coming. At least the crown makes a nice hat for the next fool. The humor lands softly, a sleepy balm against the tragedy, as Pella mourns in hushed tones. The air cooling with evening's approach, torches sputtering to life with oily pops that illuminate faces etched with shock. The empire reels from her loss, generals consolidating power amid the vacuum. But Eurydice's brief reign leaves scars on the old order. A queen who commanded until betrayal clipped her wings, her end a testament to the perils of defiance in a world that fears women with fire. Sensory fades, the cool stone under her as she slumps, the faint metallic taste on her lips from bitten resolve, the quiet drip of water marking time's inexorable flow. Forced to suicide, she joins you in the veil, her fall a mirror to yours. But the echoes ripple on, soldiers whispering of the queen who almost held it all, the night settling over Macedon like a blanket drawn tight, stars peeking through clouds as if winking at unfinished stories. A third joke drifts lightly. Betrayal's like a surprise party gone wrong. All the guests show up, but nobody's celebrating. Next time, skip the invites and lock the gates. The sarcasm whispers away, leaving the hush of a queen fallen, her throne empty, but her spirit lingering in the winds that carry tales of what might have been. You linger in the quiet aftermath of empires crumbling, the air in ancient Macedon settling like dust after a storm, carrying the faint, earthy scent of forgotten battlefields, where wild time still grows unchecked over graves long overgrown, with weeds that rustle softly in the breeze, a sleepy whisper that lulls the landscape into hushed remembrance. Eurydice's fall echoes your own betrayal on that dusty road, where soldiers rebelled at the sight of Philip's daughter struck down. But now, in the veil between worlds, you feel the threads of your defiance weaving through time, unfrayed by the executions that silenced voices but couldn't extinguish the fire you passed. From Audata's dawn trainings to Adia's miniature spear grips in those jasmine-scented gardens. Your story and hers aren't footnotes scrawled in the margins of Alexander's conquests. They're a testament to unyielding courage. Two women who carved paths through a world armored against them, your legacies lingering like the cool touch of bronze amulets warmed by skin, symbols of resistance that clink softly in the minds of those who dare to remember. Remember the braid you wove for her, tight like a helmet with beads that echoed Audata's rituals? It survives, in tales whispered around campfires, where flames crackle with the scent of pine resin, casting shadows that dance like defiant spirits, refusing to fade into obscurity. The empire Alexander built fractures further in the wake of Eurydice's end, generals like Cassander and Antipater picking at the remnants like crows on a battlefield, their ambitions clashing in wars that drag on with the rhythmic thud of marching feet pounding earth, baked hard under relentless suns, the air thick with the salty tang of sweat and the distant jingle of harnesses that hum like a lullaby for the weary. But your defiance leaves scars on the old order, a mother and daughter who led armies when queens were meant to embroider fates instead of forge them. Your campaigns in Illyria and Eurydice's sieges at Pydna standing as beacons for what women could claim if not betrayed by shifting loyalties. You sense it in the quiet rebellions that follow, soldiers muttering over goblets of watered wine that sloshes softly in clay cups, their voices low and steady as they recount how Eurydice addressed them in full armor her speeches echoing the rhetorical poise you drilled into her during those chamber practices where lavender sachets scented the air like forgotten dreams. It's a legacy not of thrones held long, but of barriers shattered. Your unyielding courage, a flame that flickers in histories pieced together from fragments, turning what could have been erasure into enduring echoes that whisper through the ages. One light-hearted joke bubbles up in the spectral hush as you imagine scholars poring over scrolls. Legacies like ours are like bad tattoos, permanent, a bit painful, and everyone debates what they really mean. At least we didn't go with matching crowns. The sarcasm drips softly, easing the weight of time like a sip from a cool spring amid desert sands. But seriously, your story lingers as a testament to courage that defies the grave, inspiring quiet acts of resistance in the shadows of power, where women in later courts might glance at portraits, faded inks on parchment, that smell of aged vellum, and draw strength from the fire you both embodied, from your spear thrusts in the Aragon Valley to Eurydice's commands that rallied phalanxes against Olympias's serpentine schemes. The sensory remnants persist, the cool grip of a hilt in a young girl's hand, mimicking Adea's trainings, the faint clink of beads in a braid worn by descendants who never knew your names but felt your resolve in their bones, the earthy musk of turned soil where battles once raged, now peaceful fields, humming with bees that drone a sleepy rhythm under sunny skies. Your defiance becomes legend in fragments, whispered in taverns where ale foams over rims with a soft fizz that tickles the nose, patrons leaning in close with breaths scented by garlic and herbs, recounting how you, Cynane, rode into Illyria, not as a princess, but a commander, routing foes with strategies sharper than any blade, and how Eurydice followed suit, her queenly armor chafing, but unbowed, until betrayal's dagger forced her hand in that damp cell where water dripped like tears from stone. It's a courage that outlives the executions, seeping into the cultural soil like rain nourishing roots, influencing tales of warrior women in later epics where bards strum lyres with strings that hum softly in firelit halls, their songs carrying your essence without naming you directly, a testament to unyielding spirits that refuse to be buried under male chronicles. Remember the quirky habit Eurydice had of sprinkling Illyrian soil before addresses, that pouch of earth tucked in her belt like a secret ally? It symbolizes the grounded defiance you both shared, turning dirt into declaration. A odd detail that historians puzzle over in dusty libraries, where pages turn with a rustle like leaves in wind, debating its ritual significance amid stacks of tomes that smell of mildew and mystery. The canonical event that immortalizes this legacy? The purge of the Argiads in 317 BCE, where Olympias, after capturing and executing Eurydice and Eurydice, systematically eliminates other rivals in a bloodletting that consolidates her brief regency but ultimately leads to her own downfall at Cassander's hands, marking the effective end of the Argead dynasty and cementing your and Eurydice's stories as tragic emblems of defiance against overwhelming odds. Historians still debate whether this purge was Olympias's desperate bid to secure Alexander's lineage through his son, or a vengeful erasure of threats that inadvertently preserved your legacies by highlighting the brutality that silenced courageous women. You envision it unfolding in Pella's halls, where echoes of shouts fade into silence, broken only by the soft patter of rain on tiled roofs, the air cooling with evening's approach, as bodies are carried away under cover of night, the metallic tang of spilled resolve, lingering like a ghost that haunts the victors. Another joke drifts lightly as you reflect on the purge's irony. Dynasties fall like dominoes in a drunkard's game, one push from a serpent queen, and everyone's tumbling. Good thing our legacy's more like glue, sticky and hard to shake off. The light sarcasm whispers softly, a sleepy comfort amid the historical haze, as your courage endures in oral traditions passed down like heirlooms. Mothers telling daughters of queens who commanded armies, their voices low and rhythmic over cradles where infants coo softly, the scent of milk and wool mingling in cozy hearths. Sensory threads weave through, the cool touch of a scroll unrolled under lamplight that sputters with oily warmth, the faint crunch of gravel under feet retracing old battle paths, the distant call of birds wheeling overhead like those ravens at Amphipolis, quirky omens that tie past to present in loops of defiance. Your story lingers not in grand monuments, but in the quiet unyielding of those who follow, women drawing from your fire to face their own sieges, whether in courts or fields where winds carry whispers of what you achieved before betrayal clipped wings. The testament grows, unbowed by time's erosion, a courage that hums like a lullaby through generations, the air alive with potential as stars emerge overhead, winking at the enduring spark you and Eurydice left behind, blurring the lines between legend and life in a world forever changed by your defiance. A third joke slips in, sarcastic and light. Unyielding courage is like that one sock that survives every wash tuff, a bit frayed, and always turning up when you least expect. Ours just happens to come with crowns and a side of history. The humor lands gently, easing into the night as your legacy whispers on. A soft rhythm that soothes the soul, beads clinking in memory's braid, fire undimmed. You sift through the faded scrolls of history, like fingers trailing through sand on a forgotten beach, the grains slipping away to reveal glimpses of what was buried deep, the air around you heavy with the musty scent of aged papyrus that crinkles softly under imaginary touch, carrying whispers of debates that echo through centuries, like a distant lullaby hummed in the dark. Your contributions, Cynane those spear-wielding charges into Illyrian valleys where you turned chaos into command, the fire you passed to Eurydice that blazed briefly but brightly on Macedonian thrones, seemed dimmed in the chronicles, overshadowed by the blazing trails of Philip and Alexander. Their conquests inked bold, while yours fade to footnotes, like stars eclipsed by dawn's relentless glow. You feel the weight of it, this blind spot in history's gaze, where male-focused narratives pile layer upon layer like sediment in a riverbed, burying the stories of women who dared to grip reins and rhetoric instead of spindles and silence. The cool breeze of time's passage, rustling pages that prioritize kings' crowns over queens' courage. Remember the braid you wove for Adia, tight with beads that clinked like talismans against doubt? It symbolizes the threads historians overlooked, weaving your defiance into obscurity rather than the tapestry's forefront, leaving gaps where your unyielding spirit should shine through. The debate rages softly in academic halls where lamplight flickers on worn tomes, scholars leaning over tables scattered with quills that scratch rhythmically like a sleepy scribe's heartbeat, arguing why your feats were minimized, perhaps by chroniclers who viewed female warriors as anomalies, quirks in the grand male, epic, or maybe by deliberate erasure to uphold patriarchal pillars that trembled under your armored strides. Historians still debate whether this burial stemmed from contemporary biases, where scribes funded by kings favored tales of heroic sons over ambitious daughters, or if later Roman compilers like Arrian and Plutarch, sifting through Greek sources scented with bias like old wine turned vinegar, simply echoed the omissions to fit neat narratives of empire built by men alone. You imagine the discussions unfolding over cups of herbal tea that steam gently in the cool evening air, voices rising and falling like waves lapping at shores of evidence, some claiming it was cultural Macedonian society, lauding Philip's phalanxes, but sidelining your solo campaigns as mere sideshows, while others point to political motives, suppressing stories that might inspire unrest among subjugated women in Hellenistic realms, where thrones wobbled on fragile legacies. Your story lingers in those blind spots, not as absence, but as invitation, drawing modern eyes to peer deeper into the shadows where light rarely falls, the sensory pull of rediscovery like unearthing a buried artifact whose cool metal surface warms under fingertips, revealing engravings that challenge old assumptions. You shuffle through imagined archives, the soft thud of heavy volumes closing like doors on forgotten rooms, inhaling the faint dust that tickles the nose and coats the tongue with the taste of antiquity, piecing together fragments from Diodorus, Siculus, and Polyaenus, who mention your military prowess, in passing, their words sparse, but sparking like embers in dry tinder. It's there, in the gaps, that your contributions gleam, leading troops when queens were expected to birth heirs, not battle plans. Your Illyrian grit from Audata's trainings, turning you into a commander who outmaneuvered foes on fields where mist clung low and damp, the earthy scent grounding your charges amid the chaos of clashing bronze. One light-hearted joke slips into the scholarly fray as you envision a historian puzzling over a scroll, burying women's stories and histories like hiding veggies in a kid's meal sneaky, but eventually someone notices and asks for seconds. Too bad the chroniclers didn't count on us digging them up with forks of curiosity. The sarcasm drips softly, easing the frustration like a gentle pat on the back amid heated debates, lightening the load of centuries-old oversights. But the burial runs deeper, male-focused chronicles, piling on like autumn leaves over a path, obscuring how you navigated Alexander's shadow, not with envy, but with silent strategy. Your court whispers turning into roars on battlegrounds where you proved blood wasn't just for birthing dynasties, but for binding loyalties in the heat of fray. Eurydice's echo amplifies it. Her armored addresses to phalanxes a direct heir to your fire, yet scribes glossed over her sieges at Pydna, favoring tales of Diadochi duels that fit the heroic mold, leaving her defiance as a whisper in the wind that rustles through olive groves where you once practiced rhetoric with her. The leaves' soft susurrus, a backdrop to words that could rally or ruin. The canonical event that underscores this blind spot, the compilation of the Anabasis of Alexander by Arrian around 150 CE, where he draws from Ptolemy and Aristobulus to chronicle the conqueror's campaigns in meticulous detail, yet omits deeper dives into family dynamics like your warrior role or Eurydice's regency bids, focusing instead on battles and strategies that elevate male protagonists while sidelining the women who shape the sidelines into stages. You picture Arrian at his desk, quill dipping into ink that smells sharp and fresh, the parchment crinkling under his hand as he selects sources that align with Roman ideals of virile conquest, burying your contributions under layers of selective memory that historians now excavate like archaeologists, brushing dirt from relics with feathers soft as breath. An odd or unusual detail from those compilation days, Arian's quirky habit of consulting his pet dog during writing sessions, claiming the animal's barks approved passages, a bizarre companion that paced his study with paws clicking on tiled floors, turning scholarly solitude into a canine critique that perhaps influenced what made the cut imagine a woof, dismissing your Illyrian campaign as not fetching enough. You delve deeper into the debate, scholars' voices blending in a rhythmic cadence like waves on a shore, some arguing the burial protected fragile egos in patriarchal societies, where your spear skills threatened the narrative of male dominance, while others suggest it was logistical chroniclers traveling with armies captured kings' exploits firsthand, leaving women's home front heroics to hearsay that faded like echoes in empty halls. The air in these imagined discussions hums with the scent of beeswax candles sputtering low, casting golden pools on tables where maps unroll with a soft rustle, pointers tracing routes you rode but weren't credited for, your blind spot, a canvas for reinterpretation that modern lenses sharpen with feminist brushes, revealing the courage you embodied in every stride. Another joke lightens the academic load. History's blind spot for women is like that one drawer full of mystery cables. Everyone knows it's there, but nobody bothers sorting it until the power goes out. Lucky for us, we're flipping the switch. The light-hearted sarcasm whispers softly, a sleepy balm against the oversight, as debates continue over wine-stained tables where goblets clink gently, toasts raised to uncovering what was hidden. Your legacy pushes back against the burial, seeping through cracks like light under a door, inspiring tales where women grip spears instead of shuttles, the sensory revival vivid, the cool rush of wind on horseback, mimicking your charges, the faint clink of armor echoing Eurydice's commands, the earthy tang of soil from that pouch she sprinkled before speeches, grounding new narratives in old dirt. Chronicler's male focus may have dimmed you, but rediscovery brightens it. Scholars shuffling through libraries where dust motes dance in sunbeams, filtering through high windows, their fingers tracing lines that resurrect your defiance from obscurity. You feel the pull, that unyielding thread connecting your campaigns to Eurydice's throne claims, a courage that defies erasure, humming like a lullaby through time's corridors where echoes refuse to die, the air alive with potential as pages turn anew. The debate endures, voices softening in late-night seminars where yawns punctuate points, the scent of cooling tea lingering as historians ponder if your burial was intentional, silencing, or accidental oversight in a world obsessed with heroic males, their arguments weaving like braids tight and intricate. You envision the resolution not in consensus, but in continued questioning, blind spots turning into spotlights that illuminate what was overlooked, your story, a testament to resilience that whispers on, beads clinking in memory's wind. A third joke slips in, sarcastic and light. Male-focused chronicles are like that uncle at family gatherings, loud, repetitive, and always stealing the spotlight. Good thing we've got the photo album to prove the women ran the show. The humor lands gently, easing into the hush as your legacy lingers, unburied and unbowed, a soft rhythm carrying it forward through the ages. You drift through the modern haze where ancient echoes meet digital glows, the soft hum of computer fans in quiet libraries, blending with the distant click of keyboards tapping out rediscoveries, the air cool and conditioned with that faint electronic tang that tickles your nose like static from a wool blanket on a chilly night. Your legacy, Cynane, that unyielding fire from Audeda's Illyrian trainings, passed to Eurydice in those garden spars where olive leaves rustled like secrets shared in whispers, stirs anew in scholars' hands, inspiring a wave of rediscovery that proves women like you could rule empires, not just adorn them. Your stories pulled from dusty archives, where pages turn with a soft crinkle that lulls the mind into contemplative rhythm, revealing how you shattered molds in a world that tried to cast you as footnotes. Remember the serpent amulet you gave Adia, quirky and coiled as a symbol of cunning that Eurydice wore into her armored commands? It resurfaces in modern interpretations, academics debating its significance over steaming coffees that smell rich and bitter, turning a childhood charm into evidence of matriarchal power that links you across millennia. Your defiance, a blueprint for women who now claim spaces once denied, from boardrooms echoing with strategic speeches to fields where echoes of your Illyrian charges inspire tactical minds. The rediscovery unfolds in university halls where projectors hum softly, casting slides of ancient coins bearing Eurydice's brief reign onto screens that glow with a gentle blue light, the room filled with the scent of fresh printouts, still warm from machines that whir like distant fans, providing that ASMR backdrop to lectures where voices rise and fall in measured cadence. You feel the pull, your campaigns in the Aragon Valley, where you routed foes with strategies honed on horseback, the wind whipping your braid with beads clinking like talismans against doubt now dissected in papers that argue for your place as a pivotal force in Macedonian history, proving that women wielded power not as exceptions but as equals who shaped dynasties from the saddle rather than the sidelines. Sensory details flood these revivals. The cool slide of a stylus on tablets where notes are jotted in haste, the faint chalk dust lingering in air-conditioned rooms that sync with the steady breath of eager students leaning forward, absorbing how Eurydice's sieges at Pydna echoed your fire, her queenly commands to phalanxes a direct heir to the courage you embodied when navigating Alexander's shadow with silent grit. Scholars pore over fragments, their fingers tracing lines on reproductions of ancient texts where ink has faded to ghostly whispers, the paper's texture rough under touch, like the earthy grit you felt under boots during those dawn rides, rediscovering how your ambition to wed Adia to Arrhidaeus threatened regents enough to seal your fate on that betrayal road, yet sparked a legacy that proves women's rule wasn't fantasy, but fact in empires built on blood and bronze. You imagine the debates heating up in online forums where screens flicker with threads unraveling your story, the soft ping of notifications, a modern rhythm that lulls participants into late-night discussions, proving your echoes of power resonate today in movements where women lead with the same unyielding spirit. From activists channeling your defiance in speeches that rally crowds like Eurydice did armies, to historians who dig deeper, unearthing coins minted in Eurydice's name that clink virtually in digital scans, their metallic gleam captured in pixels that shine like stars rediscovered after clouds part. One light-hearted joke slips into a lecture hall as a professor quips, Cynane and Eurydice ruled like bosses in a board meeting, gone ancient ambitious, armored, and always one step ahead. Too bad, the regents were the ones hitting delete on their PowerPoints. The audience chuckles, the sarcasm dripping softly like cream in coffee, easing the intensity of revelations that highlight how your Illyrian blood-fueled campaigns proving women could command legions, not just lineages. But the rediscovery digs deeper, academics sifting through Roman accounts, where Plutarch mentions your prowess in passing, his words now amplified in podcasts where hosts speak in laid-back tones that hum like fans on low, debating the erasure that buried your echoes under male chronicles, yet couldn't snuff the power that inspires modern retellings in books, whose pages turn with a satisfying flip, the scent of fresh ink grounding readers in your world of intrigue and iron. The canonical event that fuels this modern rediscovery? The discovery of the Virginia tombs in 1977 by Manolis Andronikos, unearthing royal burials thought to include Philip II's remains and artifacts that spark renewed interest in Macedonian dynasties, prompting re-evaluations of overlooked figures like you and Eurydice, whose roles in the power struggles post-Alexander gain fresh scrutiny amid the treasure's gleam. Historians still debate whether the tomb's opulent finds gold larnacs and intricate wreaths, scented with the faint must of millennia, belong definitively to Philip or other Argeads, with some arguing the site's grandeur underscores the dynasty's matriarchal undercurrents that empowered women like you to lead campaigns and claim thrones. You envision the excavation site, dirt sifting through sieves with a soft patter like rain on canvas tents, the cool earth yielding secrets that warm under floodlights, buzzing gently, artifacts emerging with a gritty texture that clings to gloves, proving your power wasn't myth, but material fact, buried, waiting for light. An odd or unusual detail from that discovery: the presence of a small, enigmatic ivory head found in the tombs, depicting a fierce female warrior that some speculate represents you or Eurydice. Its carved features, unusually expressive, with a quirky half-smile that seems to wink at excavators, as if mocking the centuries of oversight. The ivory's smooth patina, cool under fingers that tremble with excitement amid the dig's dusty haze. It's peculiar, this tiny bust amid grandeur, turning a possible self-portrait into a bizarre artifact that fuels theories on women's roles, scholars handling it with care in labs, where air hums with the whir of scanners. The scent of preservatives, sharp and chemical, like a bridge between past and present. Your echoes inspire beyond academia, in films where actresses don armor mimicking Eurydice's, the clank of props echoing your charges, directors debating scripts over tables, laden with storyboards that rustle like leaves in wind, proving women could rule empires with the same grit you showed, navigating court whispers into battlefield roars. Another joke lightens a documentary voiceover, rediscovering Cynane's like, finding that lost remote under the couch sudden, satisfying, and suddenly everything makes sense. Turns out the channel was on Male Heroes Too Long. The sarcasm lands softly, a sleepy balm amid revelations, as your legacy blurs lines between ancient and now. Women drawing from your fire in leadership roles, where decisions echo your strategic thrusts. The air alive with potential, as conferences hum with discussions, coffee steam, rising in curls that sink with thoughtful pauses. The rediscovery swells, books flying off shelves, with covers depicting you on horseback. The glossy paper slick under thumbs that flip pages eagerly, the scent of new bindings mingling with readers' breaths as they absorb how Eurydice's defiance against Olympias proves the potency of female rule in turbulent times. You feel the resonance, your power echoing in TED Talks, where speakers pace stages with mics humming softly, audiences leaning forward in seats that creak gently, inspired by tales of queens who commanded without apology, turning your blind spots into beacons that light paths for modern empires built on equality's forge. A third joke whispers in a panel discussion, women ruling empires like Cynane. It's like discovering grandma was a secret agent, shocking, empowering, and explains why the family reunions were always so intense. The humor drifts lightly, sarcastic, and laid back as your legacy endures, unyielding and rediscovered, a soft rhythm carrying it into futures where your fire burns eternal. Beads clinking in the wind of change. You feel the night deepening around you, the soft hum of the world slowing like a gentle breath easing into slumber, shadows lengthening across ancient fields where wild time sways lazily under a blanket of stars that twinkle faintly like distant memories, refusing to fade completely. Cynane, your journey through Macedon's treacherous paths, from Audaita's dawn trainings, where the grass whispered secrets under your feet, to Eurydice's armored stands, where echoes of your fire-rallied hearts blurs now into a hazy glow, the sharp edges of betrayal and triumph softening, like mist rolling over hills at twilight, leaving only the warm ember of defiance that glows steady in the quiet. You've walked these roads in second-person strides, shuffling through palace whispers and battlefield dust, your braid tight with beads that clinked like quiet vows against the chaos, proving that power wasn't just for kings, but for those who gripped it with unyielding hands, even as history tried to loosen your hold. The echoes linger softly, a testament to courage that doesn't shout but whispers through time, inspiring rediscoveries where modern voices pull your story from the shadows, blending sensory remnants, the cool touch of ancient coins, the faint scent of earth from Illyrian soils, into narratives that reassure us all. Women like you ruled empires not by permission, but by sheer will, turning blind spots into beacons that light gentler paths ahead. As the fan's hum fades to a distant sigh, the lights dimming to velvety black, let the images dissolve like dreams at dawn, your legacy a comforting warmth that settles over everything, promising that fire like yours never truly extinguishes, it just waits for the next spark. Good night, traveler. May your own echoes carry you softly into tomorrow.